All right, guys, I know in America there's a talk right now, and it's Zionism is taking over the government, at least the conservative, the neocons, the whole Charlie Kirk, rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. He was an American patriot. The whole idea about Netanyahu and the influence, a Jewish American dual citizenship, the APAC, and the percentage of how many people in politics in the House and the lower house and government are being funded all throughout our country when it comes to. But it seems kind of odd because, well, suppose the APAC funds both sides, so which is kind of interesting if you think about it. And the whole idea of Zionism, the diaspora, the call to the New Jerusalem, and in order for the Messiah to come, all Jews must go to Jerusalem, the new temple um, in Israel, and how there's a certain evangelical Christians believe they support that idea. Where they differ is that Jesus is the Messiah. And so I guess there's like, because of social media and people able to make podcasts and make videos about this, you get this idea that it's a true thing. Things are more revealed, more exposed because of non-mainstream media, which YouTube has become mainstream if you think about it. But and so that idea about a call to New Jerusalem. So as I'm on the book of Nehemiah. I'm on literally page 597 of the Bible, page 600 of the Bible. Chronicles, Judges, Kings, Samuel. You get multiple kings of Israel. Most of them are evil. Most of them are evil in the sight of the Lord, right? They use that word evil, not evil like psychotic, but they didn't follow the commandments of God that were given to Moses. They stray away from the commandments, whether it was they fell to the religions, the pagan religions of the people or the land that they were living in, influenced by the pagans, or the Ammonites, the Jebusites, the Canaanites, the could be the Persians, could be they just fell to the influence of the God of the Israelites, the God of the Bible, who said he created the earth, and the God of Genesis. And so they're constantly either doing well because they're following God's commandments and God's blessing them, and God is the reason for their victories in battle, and sustaining their their government, sustaining their country, sustaining their people, or they have a bad and God punishes them and allows the neighboring king or ruler or barbarians to take over. And so I just finished the book of Chronicles, which kind of it's like almost a summary of everything we read from like Judges and Samuel and Kings. It's almost like this reiteration. And so right here I'm reading the book of Nehemiah, and on the first Nehemiah 1, it just stood out to me. I could reread it. The words of Nehemiah the son of Hakaliah, and it came to pass in the month of Chislev, in the 20th year, as I was in Shushan the palace, that Hanani, one of my brethren, came, he and certain men of Judah, and I asked them concerning the Jews that had escaped, which were left of the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. So Shushan is a province, or it's in the area, it's in Persia. And Artaxerxes is the king at this time. I don't know if he's king of Persia or if he's just king of the province. But Artaxerxes, so we have Cyrus, king of Persia, who defeated Nebuchadnezzar in Babylon, because Nebuchadnezzar was allowed by God because of the evil kings of Jerusalem, of Israel and Judah, which is primarily in Jerusalem. Like that's like their capital place. Nebuchadnezzar was allowed to destroy Jerusalem and take the Israelites, the Jews, back to Babylon and enslave them. Remember, Babylon has probably control over a big part of the land. But then Cyrus comes, and Cyrus, he gets like a sign from God through a prophet or something, and he allows the Jewish people to go back to Jerusalem if they wanted to, and some did, but some just stood in Persia because it was stable. People live. Every life is dynamic. It's ever moving, right? So some people just stood where they were because they had families. They were working. Pretty much, Cyrus allowed the Jews. He set them free, you could say. But he dies, and then you got Darius, and then you got Artaxerxes. You got these people coming, and because some remember. So right here in the first sentence, they said, so Nehemiah questions these people, right? Questions some people that are all probably also Jews about the Jews that were left of the captivity and those that escaped, concerning the Jews that had escaped and which were left of the captivity, and concerning Jerusalem. So left of the captivity means those that were in captivity but set free and that decided to go back to Jerusalem, because Nehemiah decided to stay in exile, which just by definition means out of his origin country, which is Jerusalem, and decided to stay in Persia because he just it was a fine, he was a cupbearer for the king. He had a good job. He was important, and so he gets and so and they said unto me, the remnant that are left of the captivity there in the province are in great affliction and reproach. Like those that actually decided to go back to Jerusalem are in great affliction and reproach. The wall of Jerusalem also was broken down, and the gates thereof are burnt with fire. And it came to pass when I heard these words that I sat down and wept and mourned certain days and fasted and prayed before the God of heaven and said, I beseech thee, O Lord of God of heaven, the great and terrible God that keepeth covenant and mercy for them that love him and observe his commandments. Let thy ear now be attentive and thy eyes open, that thou mayest hear the prayer of thy servant, which I pray before thee now, day and night, for the children of Israel, thy servants, and confess the sins of the children of Israel, which we have sinned against thee. Both I and my father's house have sinned. We have dealt very corruptly against thee, and have not kept the commandments, nor the statutes, nor the judgments which thou hast commandest thy servant Moses. Remember, I beseech thee, the word that thou commandest thy servant Moses, saying, if ye transgress, I will scatter you abroad among the nations. The diaspora. Diaspora is like a group of people spread out across a space or land, or just not together. But ye return unto me, and keep my commandments, and do them. Though there were of you cast out unto the uttermost part of the heaven, yet will I gather them from thence, and will bring them unto the place that I have chosen to set my name there. Now these are thy servants and thy people, whom thou hast redeemed by thy great power and by thy strong hand. O Lord, I beseech thee, let now thy ear be attentive to the prayer of thy servant, to the prayer of thy servants who desire to fear thy name and prosper. I pray thee, thy servant, this day, and grant him mercy in the sight of this man, for I was the king's cupbearer. So what stood out to me is that Nehemiah, the idea of spread out, we need to come together. And that's supposedly the Zionist movement. That's just what, I don't know much about it, but as I've been reading the Bible, I'm on page 600. I do my YouTube channel. I read chapter by chapter if anybody wants to learn the Bible. I don't like study it or teach people. I just read it out loud. If you want to have an audio version of it, I have one. The Mind of James. Subscribe. But yeah, so this Bible's falling apart actually. First Samuel 24 is all the Samuel's coming apart. But anyway, y'all. Yeah, so Nehemiah.